Imagine coming home one day to find your entire world turned upside down. The person you trusted most in the world confessing a secret so painful it feels like a knife to the heart. That's what happened to me when I learned my wife of 15 years, Clara, had cheated on me. My name is Ethan. I'm 38, and I've spent the last year trying to figure out if love can survive a betrayal this deep, if a family can be pieced back together when trust is shattered, or if I'm just holding on to a dream that's already dead. If you've ever been hurt by someone you love, if you've ever wondered whether forgiveness is strength or weakness, stay with me. This isn't just about an affair. It's about the mess of pain, anger, and hope that comes after, and a discovery that might change everything I thought I knew. I'm sitting on the weathered wooden bench outside our small house in a fishing town just south of Bar Harbor, Maine, where the salty tang of the Atlantic fills the air and the sound of waves crashing against the rocky shore is a constant backdrop to life. It's a gray November afternoon, the kind where the sky looks like it's holding its breath before a storm, and I can see the lobster boats bobbing in the harbor, their hulls weathered by years of hard work. This bench is where Clara and I used to sit after long days, watching the sunset paint the water gold, dreaming about our future while our kids played in the yard. Now, it's just me, bundled in a flannel jacket, staring at the empty space beside me, wondering how we went from soulmates to strangers, and if there's any way back from the edge we're standing on. I grew up in this town, born in '85, the son of a lobsterman who taught me the value of grit in the sea before I could even read. Life here revolves around the tides, summers bustling with tourists, winters quiet and harsh, the community tight-knit in a way that's both comforting and suffocating. I met Clara in high school, back in 2001, at a bonfire on the beach during our junior year. She was the new girl, having moved from Portland with her mom after her parents' divorce, and I was the shy kid who'd rather be hauling traps than talking to girls. But there was something about her, her quick laugh, the way her hazel eyes caught the firelight, the fearless way she'd dive into the cold ocean on a dare. We clicked instantly, spending that summer sneaking off to hidden coves, sharing our fears and dreams under the stars, promising we'd face the world together. By senior year, we were inseparable, and when we graduated, I knew I'd marry her someday. We tied the knot in 2008, a small ceremony on the cliffs overlooking the ocean, with gulls crying overhead and the whole town crammed into the local diner for the reception. I was 23, working alongside my dad on the boat, while Clara waitressed and took night classes to become a nurse. Life wasn't easy. Money was tight, the winters were brutal, and the sea took its toll on my body, but we had each other, and that was enough. Our first kid, Mia, came along in 2010, a spitfire with Clara's eyes, followed by Noah in 2013, a quiet boy who inherited my love for the outdoors. We built a life in this creaky old house by the harbor, painting the walls bright yellow to chase away the gloom of Maine winters, filling it with laughter, crayon drawings on the fridge, and the smell of Clara's clam chowder on Sundays. I thought we were unbreakable, that nothing could touch the bond we'd forged through years of struggle and joy. But cracks form slowly, don't they? By 2018, I was working longer hours on the boat, battling quotas and storms, coming home exhausted and short-tempered, while Clara juggled her nursing shifts at the local clinic and the chaos of two young kids. We stopped talking the way we used to, stopped sitting on this bench to watch the sunset, stopped noticing the little things that kept us close. I'd see her staring out the window sometimes, lost in thought, and I'd assume it was just stress, not realizing she was drifting further away. I told myself we were fine, that every marriage has rough patches, that we'd get through it like we always did. I was wrong. Last November, on a night when the wind howled so loud it rattled the windows, Clara sat me down at the kitchen table, her hands trembling, and told me she'd had an affair. It was with a coworker, a doctor at the clinic, someone she'd turned to during a time she felt alone, and though it had ended months ago, the guilt had finally broken her silence. Hearing those words felt like the ground dropping out from under me. I sat there, staring at the chipped coffee mug in my hands, feeling this mix of rage and numbness wash over me. How could she do this? How could the woman I'd loved since I was 16, the mother of my children, the person I'd built my entire life around, betray me like this? I wanted to yell, to demand every detail, to make her feel the pain I was feeling, but I couldn't speak. I just got up, walked out to the harbor, and stood on the pier in the freezing rain, letting the cold bite into me, trying to make sense of a world that no longer did. When I came back hours later, Clara was still at the table, her face streaked with tears, but I couldn't look at her. I slept on the couch that night, and for weeks after, barely speaking, the silence between us heavier than any storm I'd ever faced on the water. The emotional conflict tearing me apart is a war between the hurt and the love I can't seem to kill. I'm so angry at Clara, so wounded by what she did, that sometimes I can't stand to be in the same room with her. I see her betrayal in every corner of our life. Every time she smiles at the kids, every time she cooks dinner, every time I pass the clinic on my way to the docks. I feel like a fool for trusting her, for believing we were different, for not seeing the signs. Part of me wants to walk away, to to file for divorce, to start over somewhere far from this town and its memories, to protect myself from ever being hurt like this again. But then there's the other part, the part that remembers the girl I fell in love with, the woman who held my hand through my dad's cancer scare, who cheered louder than anyone when I bought my own boat, who gave me Mia and Noah. I look at our kids, at Mia's drawings of our family holding hands, at Noah's quiet questions about why mommy and daddy don't laugh anymore, and I ache to keep us together, to not let this break them the way it's breaking me. I've spent the last year in this limbo, living under the same roof as Clara but feeling miles apart. We've tried to keep things normal for the kids, taking turns with school drop-offs, sitting through tense family dinners, but the air between us is thick with unspoken words. I've thrown myself into work, spending longer days on the boat, letting the rhythm of hauling traps and the sting of salt water numb the pain, but it's always there when I come home. I've replayed every moment of our marriage in my head, searching for clues I missed, wondering if I pushed her away with my absence, if I'm as much to blame as she is. I've felt this deep, aching loneliness, missing the way we used to be, the late-night talks, the inside jokes, the warmth of her beside me, but I don't know if I can ever trust her again, if love can survive when the foundation feels like sand washed away by the tide. Then, a few weeks ago, something happened that turned everything I thought I knew on its head. I was in the attic, digging through old boxes, trying to find some family photos for Mia's school project about heritage. I wanted to show her pictures of Clara and me when we were young, to remind myself of happier times, to see if I could still feel that spark. Under a pile of dusty albums, I found a small, unmarked envelope, the kind Clara used to write notes in when we were dating. My hands shook as I opened it, finding a stack of letters, all in her handwriting, dated from last December, just a month after she confessed. They were addressed to me, but never sent, pages and pages of her thoughts, her regrets, her pleas, words she'd written in secret, maybe never intending for me to see. I sat there on the cold attic floor, the faint smell of mildew around me, reading through tears as Clara poured out her heart. She wrote about how lost she'd felt in our marriage, how my long hours and her own exhaustion had made her feel invisible, how she'd turned to someone else not out of love, but out of desperation for connection. She described the guilt that consumed her after, the way she ended it almost immediately, the nights she cried herself to sleep knowing she'd hurt me. She begged for forgiveness, not because she deserved it, but because she couldn't imagine a life without us, without our family. She wrote about memories, our first dance at the diner after our wedding, the day Mia was born and I cried harder than she did, the way I'd hum off-key to Noah when he had nightmares, and how those moments were her lifeline, her reason to keep hoping I'd give her another chance. The last letter ended with a line that hit me like a wave. I'll wait for you, Ethan, as long as it takes, because I know I broke us, but I also know I'd spend my life trying to rebuild if you'd let me. Reading those letters felt like seeing Clara for the first time in years, peeling back the anger to glimpse the woman I loved, the one who's still in there under the weight of her mistake. I felt this rush of emotions, pain, because her words confirmed how far we drifted before the affair, anger, because she hadn't said this to my face, and a flicker of hope, because maybe, just maybe, she meant it. Maybe there's something left to salvage. But I'm also terrified. What if these letters are just words, just another way to ease her guilt? What if I open my heart again only to have it broken worse than before? I've kept the letters hidden in my dresser since finding them, rereading them late at night when the house is quiet, wrestling with what they mean, with what I want, with whether I'm strong enough to try again or if I'm just setting myself up for more hurt. I've been walking the rocky shoreline a lot lately, following the paths Clara and I used to take, where we'd collect sea glass and talk about forever. The ocean here is relentless, carving away at the cliffs year after year, but it's also constant, always returning no matter how far it pulls back. I think about the life we built, the summers teaching Mia to swim in the icy water, the winters huddled by the wood stove telling ghost stories, the way Clara's laughter used to echo off the harbor. I remember the day we moved into this house, painting the walls with cheap rollers, getting more paint on ourselves than the walls, promising we'd grow old here. I think about my own failures, the times I checked out, the nights I came home too tired to ask how her day was, wondering if I'd been a better husband. Would we be here now? Reflecting on the past, I keep circling back to the choices we made, the small moments that built up to this breaking point. I remember the summer of 2017, when Clara got her nursing degree, and I threw her a surprise party at the dock, the whole town showing up with potluck dishes and cheap beer, her face glowing with pride as I toasted to her strength. I think about the harder times, like when my boat broke down in 2019, and we fought over money for weeks, both of us too stubborn to admit we were scared. I recall the way she'd leave little notes in my lunch cooler, silly doodles, or "I love you" scrawled in haste, and how I stopped noticing them, took them for granted, until they stopped coming. Now, I'm left with a stack of letters that feel like a lifeline and a landmine all at once, a chance to understand her pain, but also a reminder of mine. As I sit here on this bench, the wind picking up off the water, the distant cry of gulls mixing with the crash of waves, I'm at a crossroads I never saw coming. Clara's letters are upstairs, tucked away where no one will find them. Their weight heavier than any haul I've ever pulled from the sea. I want to believe her, to sit down and talk, to see if we can rebuild something from the ashes of what we had, to give Mia and Noah a family that isn't defined by this hurt. I picture us starting over, maybe going to counseling, taking small steps like sitting on this bench again, watching the sunset, finding our way back to each other. But I'm scared of being hurt again, scared of failing, scared that forgiveness might mean losing a piece of myself, that I'll always wonder if I can trust her, if I'm enough. So, I'm turning to you, whoever's out there listening. What would you do if you were me? Would you show Clara the letters, tell her you've read her heart, and try to rebuild, even if it means risking more pain? Or would you keep them hidden, protect yourself, and walk away from a marriage that might never heal? Should I fight for us, for our kids, for the love I still feel under all this anger? Or am I just chasing a ghost of what we were? I don't know what's next for me, for Clara, for our family, but I do know I can't keep carrying this alone. Tell me your thoughts, your stories, because right now, I'm standing on the edge of something, and I need to believe there's a way forward, a way to find trust again, or the strength to let go if that's what it takes.